Testing, 1, 2. Okay, I guess it works. Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm documenting this so that you'll believe me. Right now, I'm leading you to my grandmother's attic. That's where I found the watch in her old diary. At first, I didn't think anything of it. But then when I turned the watch on, well, you'll see. This is it. This is the watch. It looks like an ordinary watch. But when I push it like this, I get pictures flashing in front of me. It's some sort of recording device. And if what my grandma's diary says is true, then it's from the future. But wait, let me explain. According to the diary, it was written in the year 2235. Humans had just begun to explore the galaxy and they figured out a way to stop aging. People were at peace and computers did all the work. So they had a world full of kids who would never get older and never die. They devoted their lives to exploration and study. And everything was great until a guy named Vexer released a computer virus that began shutting down all the computers. The Global Council of World Order, that's like the President or the United Nations or something, had to do something quick because once the computers shut down, that meant total destruction of the world as they knew it. So they put together a special team to go back in time. For now on, this is the second team. It was made up of 4 cadets, Aaron, Lisa, James, and Sean. Their mission was to find the first team and they'd gather information about careers their world would need to survive. Everything would have been fine, except Vexer found a way to follow them to the past. So I guess they went undercover. They enrolled in an elementary school during the day and they went on their missions during the afternoon. They had set up base in some sort of clubhouse, and they got their instructions from a hologram. But I'm talking too much. Just watch this.
Hi, ladies.
Hi, Mr. Williams.
Aren't you both looking lovely today?
Okay, what do you want now?
Can a coach admire the office staff without wanting something?
No.
I've got some kids who want to try out for the sports team, and I need some medical records.
Rest it on the pile. We'll get to it as soon as we can.
Well, I was kind of hoping you could do it right now. I have to get a report ready to go downtown in about an hour.
Come on, Coach. Do you really think we don't have anything better to do?
I'll do it for you.
Will you, Miss Smith?
Sure. How long could it take?
Long enough.
I promise it won't take long, about 15 ID numbers to punch in.
How about I just print you a list of students whose medical records aren't up to date, and you can check them against your list.
That'll do.
There, it should start printing in a minute.
Thanks, I'm really going to owe you one for this.
That's funny.
What?
We've got about 8 fourth graders with no medical records at all.
That can't be. I checked them out at the beginning of the year. They may not be complete, but they all have records.
Maybe it's a Y2K thing.
Excuse me, ladies. Do you know where I can find Mr. Gilmore's class? I checked his room, but...
Just a minute. Have you tried accessing their grades? Maybe their kids have left the system.
No, I've got their grades. James, Sean, Lisa, Aaron, Mark, Samantha, Ashley, they're all here.
Well, then it has got to be a glitch.
What did you want, son? We're kind of busy right now.
Nothing. I was just trying to find Mr. Gilmore's class, but it can wait.
They went on a field trip.
All of them?
Well, the ones that didn't went home.
Well, we're just going to have to bring all these kids in and find out what happened to their records. We're going to have to take those physicals again.
Oh well, thanks.
Don't mention it.
Computer, set coordinates for Buster's clubhouse. Energize.
They visit a TV studio. Cool, huh? But I won't be able to show you all of it today.
Studio, come
But
on
the
in.
weird thing about it is, somehow, they got my mother's DNA.
This way I do the news.
That's exactly right. This is where we do the news. Why don't I turn the lights on so that you can see what it looks like, okay? I'll be right back.
I can see it good right now.
What would you like to know about the TV studio?
Where do y'all actually sit when you're talking?
We actually sit on that desk right up there, and this is where Norma Hall stands when she does the weather. You see the black box that's marked out on the floor? Norma stands somewhere within this box, and then she has the green wall behind her that on the air, it looks like maps are on the air. And we can show you how that works. That works through a little bit of television magic. So this is where Norma stands, and she does her weather looking at the camera, and then she can see what it looks like by looking at the television. And if you look at the camera right now, you'll see that there are some words displayed on the camera. That's called the teleprompter. When we write our stories, we write them into the computer, and then the computer helps display them on the camera. So we have our scripts in front of us so that we can read along, but we also have them on the teleprompter so that we can keep good eye contact with the camera when we're reading our stories. And somebody has to sit over there at that station and turn a button to roll the stories by at the same rate that we read them. And sometimes that person gets distracted, or maybe the producer will make some last-minute changes and the stories are out of order. And when that happens, you can't read from the teleprompter. You have to have everything on your script.
In the same stories that you read?
I'm responsible for writing some of the stories that I read. We have many, many people who work in the newsroom. My job description is an anchor woman. That means that I anchor a news program. I kind of pull it all together by coming in the studio and presenting the news that our reporters have covered for the day. I write some of those stories, and the reporters and producers write other stories. Every newscast has a producer who decides what stories will go in that newscast and what order those stories will appear in. And then as an anchor person, I help write and read those stories on the air.
Definitely. Do you have any questions for it?
Do the people who do the stuff, the actors, people, do they come in here and do it, or wherever they do?
Well, our newsroom is right over there, and that's where we all have our desks. And we sit in there at our desks and we type our stories. There is a man in there called the assignment editor, and he and the producers and the news director talk about the stories that we're going to cover for the day. And then the assignment editor assigns a reporter and a photographer to go out and cover a story. So they take their camera and their video recording deck and their notepads, and they go out and they do exactly what you're doing right now. They ask questions and they get the information. Then they come back to the station, the reporter sits down at the computer and types the story, and the photographer and reporter go into an editing room and they edit it all together so that it can be played on the air. So we spend some of our day here and much of our day out at a particular location interviewing.
Can you explain about the maps while you're doing that, or?
When I get in the morning, I go to several different computers and find out information about the weather. And then this computer is the one that we use to create and forward the maps. So even though my information comes in where I have to read it and analyze it, look at all the symbols, then we use this computer just to put the maps together that you can see on the air. Once these maps are in order, they update themselves because of the computer program from the company that we buy them from. I use this clicker. It's almost like a little garage door opener. Isn't that something? And I press that button, and the map should show up there. That lets me know what I've got. But now if we go back over to the weather center, that map will be behind the person who's doing the weather.
What
Would one of you like to take the clicker? You all would. Okay, we can take turns and go and stand right here. See where we've kind of worn off the line? Put your toe right there. Yeah. And now if I step out, you look like you'll be ready to do the news and weather. Okay. Kind of, well, you can go right back there. That's fine. If you want to kind of angle yourself this way a little bit, see, this hand would point out, see, here's Michigan, and if you press your button, there's the clouds moving across Michigan today. That's how that works. Isn't that cool? Okay.
There's something very special about this green wall. If you wear the same color green, you will disappear. You have this color green on. Why don't you step in front of the camera? Step over here, and it's a disappearing act. You have maps right through your body. That's why Norma never wears this color green, because it's the exact same color. It's the green chroma key wall. That is called a chroma key wall.
Yeah, wouldn't it be fun? She disappeared. Looks like I just walked through Michigan.
Clicker. And go in. Now let's click the button again. Yeah, there you go. Now, yeah, you can stand over here just a little bit and point towards, maybe towards Saginaw. Say, where you know? There you go. Yeah, doesn't it feel weird? It's 55 in Saginaw right now. Good. And 48 in Alpena. Excellent. Okay, hit it again. Whoa. There's rain out there. And if you walk over here, for instance, if you walk over here, and point towards, maybe towards Saginaw, say, would you like to come and press the button?
You are crazy, Alexis.
I think we have a young actress here myself. Okay, why don't we trade it off to
Yeah,
what's
she
your
does
name?
accent.
Mercedes? Not that that won't pay off later in life, it will. Okay, why don't you give it a click? Good. Ooh, and a different map appears.
Woo!
Excellent, yeah, there's the front. Yeah, you did that right the first time, good. There's the front, that could bring some weather
How
in
do
our
you
direction.
How do you know the weather in Texas?
Pardon me?
How do you know the weather in like states or Texas or something?
That's a good question. For one thing, I can see right there, it looks pretty clear, but for another,
This is where we sit when we anchor the news. And you can tell by looking at the desktop that there are televisions underneath the tabletop. And that's so that we can look to make sure that the right thing is on television. Because when we're sitting here, we're looking toward the camera. And if we say, Angie Sharamsky has that story, we have to look down at television just like you do at home to make sure that that story is really on the air. And then if it's not on the air, we can tell and we can move on from there. So this is where the anchors sit. We wear earpieces and they are plugged in under the desk so that the producer in the control room can talk to us if he or she needs to talk to us. And there's a telephone under there and a bunch of microphone wires, and there's also a foot pedal down there for the teleprompter if you have to run it yourself. It's pretty much a general mess. This is where you plug your earpieces in right there.
Can I push the volume up?
There's no volume on those. You can push it up, but it won't go up. Because if the volume was up on the TV, then the sound wouldn't sound very good. It would feed back into the microphone.
How do you like get people up on the screen to give you news, to give you other news? Yeah.
Well, that's a very good question. We have a live truck and a satellite truck. And these trucks have a very big mast on the top of them. If you want to do a live report from a fire scene, the reporter and the photographer drive the truck out to the fire. They put the big mast up in the air and they aim it back to the TV station. And that gets their signal back here. With a microwave truck, you can only go so far away because the signal only travels so far. With a satellite truck, you can go anywhere in the world. And your big satellite dish, and you've seen a satellite dish, maybe you know people who have one at home. Okay, what it does is that it takes the picture from the camera and it sends it to a satellite that's orbiting the Earth. And then the TV station tunes in the same satellite. So the satellite picture goes up to the satellite, and it comes back down to the TV station, and then it's on the air.
What do you like about this job?
This job is very exciting, but there's also a lot of tension in this job. But some people complain about their jobs because they do the same thing every day. I do the same thing every day, but yet it's different because the news is different every day. And what's exciting about it is that I get to learn about things before anybody else does. And I get to tell other people about it. I get to meet a lot of people, go a lot of places. And one of the bad things about it, that's also a good thing about it, is that when you go out on the street, people recognize you. That's good because then they want to tell you about stories. But it's bad sometimes because if you're really in a hurry, they want to stop and talk, and you can't be rude to them because they think they know you because you're in their home on their television all the time. Or sometimes if your kids are being bad, they'll look at you and they'll say, oh my, that's the TV lady, her kids aren't very well behaved. So there are some good things about it and some bad things about it.
What don't you like about this job?
Well, I think that's in addition to the fact that everywhere you go, people recognize you, so you can't go out looking like a slob. One of the things that I don't like about it is the amount of tension that there is, the tension and stress, because we're always working under a deadline. You know how you tend to put off those book reports because you don't want to do them until they're due? We always have deadlines. Everything's due all the time. So there's a lot of tension and stress. You have to do a lot of things at once. So that's the hard part of the job, trying to do too many things at one time.
Are there any age or physical requirements for this job?
There aren't really age requirements. There are some, you can't really call them physical requirements, but it's not spelled out in a contract, but if you're not strong enough to pick up the camera and the tripod and all the gear, that would be a problem for you. And after a certain amount of time, some of the photographers do end up with shoulder problems or back problems, and they'll have to go see a doctor. Rather than age requirements, it's more educational requirements. If you want to get into television, you have to go to college. You can take different degrees. My degree is in journalism. Some people will have a degree in photography. Some will have a degree in telecommunications. What the degree is called is different depending on what college you attend. I went to Penn State University because I grew up in Pennsylvania, and my degree is in journalism. So definitely get a college degree.
What are the perks in this job?
Some people might consider it a perk to be considered somewhat of a local celebrity. That's not why I got into this business. I got into it because I liked the news business and I wanted to be a reporter. But there is some celebrity status that goes with it. To me, the biggest perk is you get to know everything before everybody else does. You're right on top of things. But in the same vein, then you have to be very informed. Because when a story breaks, you have to know the right questions to ask, the right people to go to get the answers. You have to be aware of everything that's going on in your community. So I tell people who are interested in getting into this business that even though they might want to study journalism at school, to take all kinds of classes. You never know when you're going to need to know about history or chemistry or math, the law, medicine. You may have to deal with any number of topics in one day. Politics, because we interview a lot of government officials and politicians. So you have to be aware of all the things that are going on around you. Well, that's regulated by our union contract. The reporters and photographers are represented by AFTRA, the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. Some of the technical people are represented by NABET, so we have two different union contracts here. Basically, you get 1 week paid vacation after you've been here for 1 year. I have been here for almost 20 years. I now get 4 years of paid vacation. We do have health benefits, which is very important when you have a family, but we do have a copay. We have to contribute some amount of money out of each out of each paycheck to help cover our benefits.
What kind of salary do you make?
It varies a lot. If you are an entry-level reporter, you'll probably start in the mid-20s, like $24,000 a year. Sounds like a lot of money. When I got my first job out of college, I had to work 50 hours a week on the night shift, and I got paid a little over $9,000 a year, which was the equivalent of minimum wage for a college degree. So you start small and you work your way up. If you're going to be in this business for a long time, you might make, you might top out in the Flint market at about $75,000 a year. You would get paid more if you go to a bigger city. If you work in Detroit, you'll get paid more money. And that's all based on the number of people who can be watching your television station. If you have a lot of people watching, then you're going to make more money. Have you heard of television ratings? Have you ever heard them talk about ratings? That means if, what would you give a show? Anywhere from a 1 to a 10? If a lot of people like it and they give it a 10, then that show makes more money. And do you know why? They can charge more for the advertising that plays on that show. The more people who watch a show, the more they can charge for the commercials. The most expensive commercial will play on the Super Bowl, which is the really big football game that they play between the professional football teams in January. And companies will pay all kinds of money to get their commercials on there because they know a lot of people are watching. So that's how it all works, and that's how the TV stations make their money.
What kind of money does Tom Brokaw make?
Tom Brokaw works for NBC. I'm sure he makes multi-millions. I'm sure Peter Jennings, who does World News Tonight on ABC, makes multi-millions. Lots and lots of money.
What hours do you have to work?
I get up at 2:30 in the morning. I come to the TV station at 3:30 in the morning. I am on the air from 5 until 7 in the morning, and then again at 7:25 and 7:57 for short little news briefs. Then I'm on the air again at noon for a half an hour until 12:30. Then my shift is over. If my work is done, I leave then because I get up very early. So basically everybody's scheduled for 9 hours a day. Supposed to take a lunch hour somewhere in there. Most people don't get a chance to do that. You usually eat at your desk while you're working. When you dress for this job, basically you want to have a professional appearance. You don't want to wear things that are big, bold flowers or big stripes or lots of plaids, because that will distract from what you're saying. You want to wear basically a lot of solid colors that complement your own skin tone, and you don't want to overdo the makeup. You don't want to have way too much lipstick or way too much blush. You just want to look nice so that you look professional and people aren't staring at what you're wearing or how you look, but they're listening to what you say. So a professional appearance. When you anchor 2 newscasts a day, it's hard to get out of the studio. If there are special assignments or a very big breaking story, the anchors will leave. Generally, we're restricted to the building because we have so many commitments here. In addition to being here and sitting here and reading the news, I have to write stories. I have to set up interviews. When people come in to be interviewed in the studio, we set up all of that ourselves. We have to, research our information so that we know the questions to ask. It's very quiet in the newsroom right now. Most days the phone is absolutely ringing off the hook. The gentleman that you see standing there, his name is Kevin Wilson, and he is our assignment editor. And right now he's talking on the two-way radio to one of the crews that's out covering a story. And surrounding him, behind that wall, are police scanners where we listen to the different police agencies and fire agencies so that we know what accidents and fires might be happening.
What days of the week do you work?
I work Monday through Friday. I'm very glad that I get both of my weekend days off. That's important to me because I have 2 boys. Their ages 11 and 13, and they're very, very busy with their activities. So I like to, and that's the reason I work early in the morning, so that I can get home, so that I'm home when my kids get home from school and I can do their activities with them. That's a very hard thing that you have to decide when you choose a career. How can you balance work and a family? So I work Monday through Friday.
Is there room to advance this job?
Yes, there is definitely room to advance. I started here as a reporter, and after being a reporter for a while, then I became an anchor woman, where I actually got to anchor a newscast. And I worked here for, probably 13 years or so, and then I took some time and went into a management position behind the scenes, and then I came back on the air again. But people who have been here for a long time, yes, they work their way up the ladder. That's good about this TV station. They like to reward people who work hard. A lot of people will advance by moving to a bigger TV station in a bigger city.
Do you get any news from that? Like, bad situation? Do you get news from bad situations?
Oh, yes, there was very, very much coverage of that situation, and that leads to the depression, because when you talk about something that is so sad for so many days in a row, you can't help but to feel sad yourself.
How do we reporters handle emotion?
Well, a reporter is supposed to tell both sides of the story and not get their own opinion in the story. But when you have very, very tragic circumstances that you have to go cover, it can really wear you down. It can be very emotional. Sometimes you just have to completely distract yourself for a minute and try to turn your attention to something else so that you don't start to cry, because it can be very depressing. We try to have good news along with the bad news, but honestly, the bad news outweighs the good news. It can be, when there was the school shooting in the Beecher School District, it was very, very depressing and very hard to handle. I know the whole community felt that way, but we were dealing with it our entire work day, and then you take it home with you because you just can't stop thinking about it. So you have to just try not to think about it, but in a situation like that, it's difficult not to.
Chapter 4, this is security.
Go ahead, security.
I found the genetic twins. They seem to be in the holding cell just as you suspected.
What are they doing?
They seem to be sleeping. Do you want me to wake them up?
No.
Well, I've got my face. I'm sure they won't give me any trouble.
No, you don't understand. I think they've created a mind meld.
A what, sir?
A joining of the minds. They're linked. If you were to wake one without the other, they would probably die.
Well, I'll wake them both.
No, their brains are not in the room with you. Unless they chose to be woken up, their minds would rip apart as they came back to our time. You know how the society would react if the genetic twins were hurt.
So what do you want me to do, sir?
Put them inside a containment field and make a watch over them. Notify me if there's any change in their condition.
Yes, sir. Computer, raise shield, security code 529.
So Jonathan teleports to the Quester's new hideout at the back of the library. He warns them that the secretaries are checking for their non-existent medical records. And the team starts working on a plan to hack into the school computers.
Excuse me, lady, there's a flood in the boys' bathroom. Could you please place the custodian?
Just a moment. We're a bit busy right now.
Sure, no problem. It's just that it's going into the hall. I can already see some green stuff oozing under the door.
Okay, I'll get at it.
Morphotron, activate.
Mrs. Smith, could you come back here a minute? Can't find those files we were looking for. And Mrs. Jackson, could you get Coach in here? I want to remove some of these things that he has in the way.
Yes, Mr. M will be right there.
Are you always gonna jump as soon as he calls? What? You're looking for my job, aren't you?
I swear, I don't know what you're talking about.
Bryce, wake up.
Bryce, wake up.
Where am I?
You're in the computer lab. It's a good thing I came along before anybody else did.
Where's Jonathan?
How am I supposed to know? They break my scanner, remember?
We're at the school. Can't be far from here.
I
thought you said you were going to take care of him.
I'm working on it.
Well, what's your plan?
It's simple. I find him, and I destroy him.
I thought you tried that already.
This time I'll be powered up first.
Yeah, yeah. How do you plan to find him?
Well, I'm pretty sure this kid I've been tutoring knows something.
Well, what are you waiting for? Aren't you forgetting something?
Is that better?
Yeah, it's on my desk. I'll be just a second. What do you think you're doing?
I asked you a question. What are you doing? Who are you?
This is pretty intense. Aaron has been caught on the office computer. This could be the end of the Career Quest team.